I'm Maggie Echols. I'm from Charlottesville, Virginia. I graduated in May 2015 with a Bachelor of Arts in History and minors in Spanish and Political Science. History was always my favorite subject growing up. I knew I wanted to get involved with it in college, but I didn't know if I wanted it to make it a major. And then just kind of explored things my freshman year and decided history was going to be the best path for me. Yeah, I love that history gave me the opportunity to do a lot of reading and a lot of writing. I think that'll position me well for a future career. I just love the subject. I focused on 20th century American history with a focus in political history. So that's mostly what I was interested in. I'm very interested in public policy and public interest, and I think it gave me a really good opportunity to understand more about the world and more about the current state of American politics. My senior thesis was titled A History of the Virginia Democratic Party from 1965 to 2015. I became interested in the project in about January 2013. I started coming up with the idea of, I wanted to write a thesis. I wasn't exactly sure what to write on. Dr. Stebenne and I sat down and had a couple conversations about potential topics, and I knew it was going to be something in 20th century political history, but didn't exactly know what. Was really interested in Southern and regional politics, and being from Virginia, it kind of lent itself to an interesting thesis that was not very well researched, but pretty important for contemporary politics. So that's kind of how I got started in it.
I'm David Stebenne. I teach modern U.S. political history and American legal history here at OSU. I'm on both the history faculty and the law faculty. She began talking to me in office hours about doing a senior honors thesis in this area, and we talked about how interesting a state Virginia has become, not just because of the change in the Democratic Party over the last 50 years, but also because it's become a purple state like Ohio, one that's neither strongly red or blue. So it's kind of a national laboratory for American politics. So I thought a study of Virginia and how it had become a purple state would be really interesting. How the Virginia Democratic Party changed successfully. It's a party that wins consistently now at the statewide level, and most Southern Democratic parties don't. It turned out that that was not an easy question to answer because there were several variables. So what interested me most was Maggie's ability, doing research, to track down the most important ones and then to kind of compare them, weigh them. Is it because there are so many Northerners who've moved into Northern Virginia? Is it because they've elected an African-American governor, and so black voter turnout, who is a Democrat, so African-American turnout and support for the Democratic Party is high? Is it because there are so many social conservatives in parts of Virginia, so the Republican Party has now a strongly socially conservative stance, which has helped the Democrats win votes from suburban women, for example, who think the traditional family values message is too old-fashioned. So there really is a lot going on in Virginia, and like the country as a whole. And Maggie did a good job of sort of tracking down what the key variables were and then figuring out to what degree they mattered and wrote it all up in a sort of clear way.
Yeah, I think what really helped was beginning of the spring of my junior year, Dr. Stebenne offered to teach me in an independent study course on the change in the Republican Party over the same time period roughly, just so I could get a good sense of what the national political climate was. So from there, it just kind of snowballed into the thesis as we kept going along. So I really spent that semester, focusing in hard on changes in U.S. politics in general, and then got into a state level. Along the way, we had plenty of meetings to discuss, time frames and what I was learning and how to best utilize some of the resources I was given. And also he helped me find some scholarship opportunities too to help fund my travel and expenses along the way. I got 2 separate grants from the history department for a total of $2,000. I traveled back and forth to Virginia a lot in the summer of 2014, doing research there. It was nice that my parents live in Charlottesville, so most of my research was done in Richmond, which is only about an hour away. But I also did some research in Washington, D.C. for a little bit. Also did some research in the Newport News, Virginia Beach area in southeastern Virginia. So yeah, I kind of got to travel all around the state and get some good stuff, and also did a lot of phone interviews too, just because schedules didn't really work for me to be in Virginia to get them done. So I guess I was most overwhelmed by how many resources there are in the archives, especially. I was working out of the Library of Virginia, which is in Richmond, and I wasn't prepared for the amount of boxes I would have to sift through to go, figure out certain policies by certain governors when they've got 200 boxes on each term that they've done. That can be a little challenging, but also kind of amazing how much stuff people care to keep around and use for archives. So that was the most eye-opening thing I did. I'm planning to go to law school next fall, and every law school interview I've had so far, the thing they've been most impressed about is the fact that I wrote a thesis, because they say the writing skills you learn and the research skills you develop are probably the most important things you could have going into a law school education. So far it's working out for me.
And again, I can't emphasize too much. When you figure out as a professor that you're working with someone who's organized and has a strong interest in what they're doing that'll carry them through the work of it, and they have a topic that appeals to you, then it's a really enjoyable experience. It's been terrific. I really enjoyed doing it. So, and the other people on the exam, because at the end there is an oral exam, so there was someone from political scientists and another professor from history. They were also really impressed with the result, and also really impressed with the way, how well it was written, which again, in this kind of assignment, really matters.
I would recommend it to anybody, though. It was a phenomenal experience for me. I've used my introduction of my thesis for countless writing examples for law schools, jobs, and I really think that I have great research skills now that I didn't have before, especially on an independent level.